had a memorial actually on the mainland. A pastor, dear guy, got hit riding his bike on Pisgah.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Yeah, this lady plowed into three of them sitting there at beach in Newland.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
45 years old
No
with four
way.
kids. Yeah.
That is so tragic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oof. Which brings us to the resurrection
I
for
know.
today.
Yeah, this is actually like all the crazy trauma that everyone's experienced, even just in 2025. I don't know.
Yeah.
I put a survey on my Instagram and I said, do you feel like the warfare is more intense this year?
Mm,
And it was like 75% of people said yes.
absolutely.
I don't know why, but
In 40 years, 45 years of ministry, I've never felt it like this. It's really intense.
wow.
Yeah.
What does spiritual warfare often look like on Kauai?
Here it's overt. It is overt. I'm talking people see things, we see things, see figures, people have visions, stuff moves. We've had stuff move. They've got a phenomenon they call the marchers, and you hear footsteps across your roof. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. And you have to go, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ. And then they'll stop. But like the gals were having, yeah, doors opening and closing, people walking by, kids see all kinds of amazing things, physical feelings. So stuff actually just straight out manifests, as well as Kauai is really it's really a little bit different in that it has deep pagan roots, including human sacrifice. And that only stopped in the 1800s. So you're going, okay, that's only 3-4 generations. That's not that long ago. There's a real deep darkness, and there's a lot of people who want to get in touch with ancient Hawaiian traditional practice.
Yeah. It's important to know there's a way to connect with our history and our ancestry that doesn't include having to access unchristian spirituality. It's awesome to connect with your family history and your ancestry, but it doesn't have to include practicing non-Christian spirituality. Anyway.
I think from an anthropological perspective, it's fine to connect with your cultural heritage, but a couple of things are important, and this is totally off topic today. But one is that it's not better because it's old, and what people were doing at a different time are just choices that people made about what they were doing and their values and art. It doesn't make it more important. It doesn't make it binding on you. And sometimes there are things in culture that need to be lost. It's a good thing Nazism got lost.
Yeah.
Like my grandparents, my grandfather came over. His family answered a newspaper ad in Austria for a new life in America, the brave new world. This is right at the turn of the 20th century, and they brought their family of 10 kids over on a steamboat and then a train, and they ended up in a mining town in Wyoming, not realizing from the small print that they had that they were indebted for the price of the steamship and the price of the train. And my grandfather started working in the mines when he was 9. Work all day, come out at night, get up, go back in the mine before it's daylight. He only saw light on days off.
It's interesting how labor trafficking hasn't really changed methodology that much.
Nope.
Power dynamics are everywhere. And of course, we're looking at a book where the author knows quite well that most of his readers are severely traumatized. They're going through huge levels of persecution from the powers that be at the time. So here we find ourselves, I guess. I thought it'd be cool to do 2 episodes on Revelation 20. Our conversation first, and then I'll do a solo episode where I geek out about more details. But
Okay.
I think it'd be cool if we read it real quick.
Yeah.
Just to share with everyone who might be driving in their car. the context of what we're looking at today. And then I have a handful of questions to ask you, but I'd also just love for you to share whatever
To rant.
comes. Yeah, rant. Feel free to rant. Feel free to share whatever comes to your heart and just pops in your head from years and years of study. So, Revelation 20, and I saw. Of course, that's how John sets up the next vision. An angel coming down out of heaven, having the key to the abyss and holding in his hand a great chain. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil, or Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. He threw him into the abyss, locked it and sealed it over him to keep him from deceiving the nations anymore, until the 1,000 years were ended. After that, he must be set free for a short time. I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge, and I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of their testimony about Jesus and because of the word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or its image, and they had not received its mark on their foreheads or on their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. Parentheses, the rest of the dead didn't come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy are those who share in the first resurrection. The second death has no power over them, but they will be priests of God and of Christ and will reign with him for 1,000 years. Okay, there's a lot there, but John has even more to share. When the 1,000 years are over, Satan will be released from prison, will go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle. In number, they're like the sand of the seashore. They marched across the breadth of the earth, surrounded the camp of God's people, the city he loves, but fire came down from heaven and devoured them. And the devil who deceived him was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. They will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Then I saw a great white throne and him who was seated on it. The earth, the heavens fled from his presence. There was no place for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. Another book was opened, which is the book of life. The dead were judged according to what they'd done, as recorded in the books. The sea gave up the dead that were in it. Death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them. Each person was judged according to what they had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. The lake of fire is the second death. Anyone whose name was not found written in the book of life was thrown into the lake of fire. So that's chapter 20. No big deal. Nothing to see here.
Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts?
Well, you're right. This is the apex of conflict. If you know, after this, there's not really any conflict. So this is the height of all the conflict that takes place in all the other parts of the book, and really the height of the cosmic conflict. So, you know, they're all of the themes. It's like a symphony in that, you know, if you listen for the clarinet, you hear that clarinet, but you lose the strings in some sense. But if you focus on the string, vice versa, and you can't take in the whole symphony, you just have to let the whole thing go, and the whole defines the parts, and the parts define the whole. You know, symphony is made up of the parts, but each part really gets its identity from the whole. And so when you're trying to listen to this passage, if you do analysis, in some sense you lose sight of the whole thing, especially if you do close analysis, but it's the whole thing that really defines it. And this brings together theme after theme of Christian eschatology, and really of Christians like soteriology, salvation theory, all that stuff, right? So it really is. This is the crown of the conflict.
Yeah,
it's a great apocalyptic conflict. Yeah.
Theologically, such a culmination on many levels. And you're always reminding us, and we're so grateful, to zoom out, to not get lost in the weeds, but to see the book as a whole, and John's message as missionally, purposefully encouraging persecuted Christians and reminding believers to stand firm until the end, and the victory that's coming in the future is our prize, not like the current state of affairs that can be so heartbreaking. Is that kind of part of the big picture?
Absolutely. That's That's the Jesus theme. This is that fundamental Jesus-based theme that runs through Revelation, that is the core of Christian theology, where Jesus says, "Lay not up for yourself." It's so funny because we don't like what he's like. Watch my lips. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth. They will perish. Lay them up in heaven. And like, or in Luke where he goes, the first shall be last, the last shall be first. Make sure you're, and he beats his drum. Make sure you're on the right side of that equation. And we do lose sight of it. So the big picture is Jesus says, the rewards come later. Blessed are those who are suffering now. They will have a compensation later. And what this chapter is the picture of that great later compensation, where it actually does turtle and flip. So all of Jesus's eschatological theology points toward this. All of his teaching points toward this moment when it actually does flip. And
so if you're reading in the Gospels, the last will be first and the first will be last, you can almost envision this final battle moment where the flip happens. The last are some of the people that were persecuted. I can't think of any better example of being last than being beheaded. And now you see their victory, their resurrection, their reign and rule with Christ. And then the first, the people that were always in power, oppressing everybody else, storing up all sorts of stuff for themselves at the expense of others,
yes,
now are last. They're defeated. They're perishing under the effortless spoken word victory of the all-powerful Christ.
Yeah, and it is particularly poignant in the way that it depicts it. If you think about being oppressed at that time, what would your frustrations be? Okay, what kinds of things happen to Christians? Well, they have their stuff taken away. But if you look, just look at the life of Paul. He's consistently falsely accused, dragged before magistrates, often beaten, and thrown in jail. The first thing they do to him all the time is they throw him in jail. What's the first thing that happens here?
The enemy gets thrown in jail.
Thrown in jail for how long? For 1,000 years.
Well, I don't want to skip ahead, but my future question to you in like 4 questions is going to be about that release after that. But we'll get there. But yes, so he's thrown in jail for 1,000 years, which is a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another reversal.
Mm-hmm.
Any other great poetic examples of this power dynamic reversal that you see in this chapter?
Particularly here, if you look, the angels are playing the role of the lictors or the soldiers, the police-ish. There's no real police at that time, but there are lictors in those. And they drag them before who? I saw thrones, and those who were seated on them were given authority to judge. I saw also the souls of those who have been beheaded. This is a tribunal of the oppressed and of the martyrs. So they now sit as judge. And they're dragged. These are dragged before. These are the ones who have been dragged before. And there's Satan is thrown into a jail without any kind of a trial first. First, the angel just throws him in jail. That's what they do to Paul in those days. So this is the kind of frustration. It's the reversal of the frustrations that the Christians would have felt. But sometimes jail and beating was the punishment, but sometimes death. Think about how Nero killed Christians. He lit them on fire as torches in his garden. What happens here?
Fire. Yeah.
So it's not only jail, it's fire.
I keep noticing that throughout the book, how it's purposefully measured. All these judgments are fair, and it reminds you, it points out those who did this now have this being done to them. It's very calculated. And
this is the thing that goes back to all the letters at the beginning, to the one who overcomes, to the one who overcomes. And that's both enduring and it's conquering. So it's both. So the one who overcomes is given. Each church gets that thing. If you overcome, you get a second life. If you overcome, you get to be made a pillar in the house of God. Each of these things is to the one who overcomes. This thing is, if you endure to the end, which means even enduring through death, then you get the reversal.
And you overcome by enduring. Even if you don't feel like you have any sort of power or weapons to wield, all that matters is your perseverance. I just love how God cares about the downtrodden, broken, or disregarded. His focus is always the people that are stomped on and abused, and his righteousness is so fervent for everyone who's been mistreated to set things right for them, and every Christian who's been persecuted for their faith to see victory and to overcome by the word of their testimony, which, like you said, includes becoming judge over the enemy, which is really a privilege. That's amazing.
He hands this to those who have suffered in court. This is like the special awards banquet for the Purple Heart recipients only. They're the ones who get to have this place of being judges because they were dragged before courts and judged, and now it's turnabout. And that's a theme. Turnabout rewards is a theme throughout the Old Testament. You know, what you have done. By your words, you're condemned. By your actions, you're condemned. So that's that whole flip. It's like Jesus when he talks about the poor man, or the rich man and Lazarus. Abraham says to the rich man, well, you know, you had it good and he had it bad. Now he has it good and you have it bad. That's just the way it rolls. And there's kind of a hint there that's the rich man's rationale for not giving Lazarus things.
He's getting a taste of his own judgment.
Rationale.
Whatever measure he was using to judge the people around him when he was living, now it's being dished out to him, kind of thing.
Yeah. And so these opponents of God, the devil and the ancient serpent, Satan, he doesn't get any defense. He doesn't get to answer. He's just judged and thrown away, which is how he's treated people.
Yep.
There's no conflict. There's overwhelming power and subjugation. That's what's going on. You know, and that's kind of like when they cry to the Lamb at his judgments, you are righteous, O Lord, because, you know, they shed blood and you gave them blood to drink. That's how it rolls. You know, wow.
Yeah, and it reminds us just how evil oppressing people is. God's never been okay with it, and he never will.
Never will.
He's like such a perfect judge.
Yeah, it makes you think of all those times where the psalmist says, and they say, will God see? And this says, absolutely. And really, this is kind of, in God's economy, it's 10-1. You know, you get to be in jail for 1,000 years.
Wow.
You know?
Well, yeah, you don't want to mess with his kids. It's not a good idea.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to actually quote you. You wrote this in an email as we were setting up this podcast.
Okay.
You just quickly wrote, when I read chapter 20, I see the key theme to be reversal of fortune, or state of being. The section is climactic, painting an apocalyptic imagery of Jesus' promise to switch the last and the first, the victim and the victor, ruler and subject, judge and accused, living and dead. This is the great inversion that Christian eschatology holds forth as a central hope in the promise of the gospel.
I agree.
So this is a reversal or an inversion, and it includes living and dead. Can you talk about that part too?
Yeah. Look at 20, if you go verse 4.
Okay.
Then I saw thrones, and those seated on them were given authority to judge. I also saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their testimony to Jesus and for the word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or its image and had not received its mark on their foreheads or their hands. They came to life and reigned with Jesus 1,000 years. This is how Jesus self-identifies in the letters, both in the very beginning and in the letters. He is constantly saying, I am the one who was dead and am alive. And he's identified as the Lamb who was slain. So it's integral to Jesus's identity that he is the one who had been dead and that got changed. That is Christ's great victory, that he was dead and is alive. And that's what he offers to his followers. So that, they despise not their souls unto death, or held not to their life unto death. So this is an integral part of Jesus' identity, that he was the one who was dead and is alive. And that's what he holds forth to his own followers, that they don't hold to their lives. They overcome by the word of their testimony, by the blood of the Lamb, because they don't hold to their lives, even unto death. And this is where death gets turned into life. That's their reward, that they were dead and they live. And not only do they live, but they reign. And not only do they live and reign, they judge. So that which brought them death, being falsely accused and judged, gets turned reversed into they have authority because they live. And it's just kind of startling the way it says it. And they were a lot. They lived. Zoe is the thing. They were alive, right? So there's that big turn. They were the dead. They are the alive.
And who's are these the same thrones? Is this the 24 elders? Is that the same thrones, or is this different thrones with different?
Yeah, this is thrones for all the martyrs.
Okay. Yeah, because it says, I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge, and I saw souls of those who had been beheaded. So,
yeah, I can see how you would say it. Let me check real quick. It says, and I saw thrones and the ones seated upon them, and judgment was given to them.
So it kind of depends what translation you're reading.
And then it says, and the souls of those who had been killed. So yeah, you could chop it up. You saw thrones, and you saw the ones seated on them, and you saw, and judgment was given to them. Yep, you can separate it out. To me, it appears that it's the ones. All the ands stack up, that this is that same body of people.
Okay.
There is in Luke where he says, "You'll be seated upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel." But this doesn't look like 12 thrones. It doesn't look like those elders. It looks like this is it. Honestly, what it looks like to me is a field judgment, where they set up like a court out in the field of battle, and they hold court there. And to me, that looks like all of the slain. But I can see how you'd separate it. That makes sense. And it's probably just as fair.
So assuming me and you, being modern Americans, die of natural causes and don't get martyred for our faith, and our version of persecution is relatively light upon this earth. Okay. Assuming that continues to be the case, we're not resurrected yet at this millennial time, correct?
That's what it would say. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It would say, if you're not a martyr, you have to watch this on the video. Because it says, the rest of the dead did not come to life until 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed are the holy, those who share the first resurrection. Over these is like death has no power. So they came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. It doesn't have any other they. It's those who had been beheaded, those who hadn't received the mark, those who had been.
Okay.
And they appear to be one group, those who had been beheaded.
It's so fascinating to think about what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever read G.K. Beale's commentary on Revelation?
Mm-mm.
I've been finding that it's turned out to be like my number one most
source,
cited. Huh? Yeah, it's
excellent.
And I have the shortened version. It's only like 580 pages or whatever. Just because I didn't want to buy the 1,000-something, it was like even more expensive.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot there, but it does a good job shrinking it down for people with my type of brain. I haven't read his commentary on 20 yet, but it'll be interesting to see how he parses out the. Mm-hmm. But he just ties a lot of it into itself and into the Old Testament. So he'll remind you, if you're forgetting like one of the hyperlinks, he'll remind you of that. So that's why it's been really, really helpful resource. So
that's cool.
What do you?
No, I loved it.
Yeah, I should send you it after I'm done reading. What do you find to be helpful as far as resources on the book of Revelation? Are there any specific commentaries or?
I I do honestly. I do my most of my work just from the Greek text. There's I think as far as background, here's a good resource if you want. Charles Worth's translations of apocalyptic literature from the time they're contemporary with the New Testament and shortly after.
Cool.
So that'll give you this will give you a great background on the other literatures that are doing apocalyptic and what they sound like. That's a huge one. This one also, Hansen, wanted the dawn of apocalyptic. Real good quality scholarship about how apocalyptic came about as a genre and what it looks like as it develops. So that's sort of like the map legend that'll help with understanding apocalyptic.
So those pseudepigraphal works, did John have access to some of those?
Probably not, but
Okay.
they, some of them, yes. Obviously, Enoch was widely used at the time of the New Testament's writing. Jude quotes extensively from First Enoch, so we know that. There are snippets. Behold, he comes with 10,000 of the saints, the Son of Man imagery, all that stuff is from Enoch. So that's already there. Another one that's good, John J. Collins, The Apocalyptic Imagination. So that really works with what was the Jewish development of apocalyptic, and what were the ways in which they were thinking. And apocalyptic, you have to have a big win like this at the end.
So John's sticking with the rules of the genre.
In many ways.
Okay.
It's the rules of the genre, but if he was going to write about the eschaton, what better genre to write in? It's also a genre that's suited to his topic. That's why he chose it. So not only does he frame his writing in apocalyptic is appropriate for his writing. Because there is that theme of, do we win or do we lose forever?
Yeah.
And this is, we win forever. If you notice, that's why, and this is jumping ahead, but chapter 21, verse 1, there's a new heaven and a new earth. Why? Because the last people to reign on earth are these. There is no reversal after this. The curtain closes with the saints ascendant.
So I was going to ask, what do you believe about the 1,000 years here? There's different schools of thought.
Well, my thought is a time times and half a time is symbolic. 144,000 is symbolic. 24 thrones is symbolic. 7 horns and 7 eyes is symbolic. 10 horns and is symbolic. A tail sweeping a third of the stars is symbolic. Why should this vary from that pattern? When every other number in the book is symbolic, why now say, this is 1,000? So, yeah, all the numbers are symbolic. And I don't see any reason to vary from that. But to go ahead and say, okay, this is a symbolic time. This is, are you done yet? This is everything but a life sentence.
You don't think this millennial is happening right now, though, it sounds like.
I see no reason to think that this is happening now.
Got it.
This has cataclysmic victory. I don't see Christ ascendant now, or his people as the judges now. I don't see that there is the reversal that Christ promises now. I see that we're still in the last, not first, that we're still, the church is still despised.
Yeah.
It's not victorious now.
Yeah, in all of 2025, there's just thousands and thousands of Christians alone that have been killed in Nigeria, and there's lots of other groups that are being killed still, too.
Lord have mercy.
It's terrible. Do you, if someone asks you if you're a premillennialist, do you even give them an answer, or what is your response?
Them, honestly, when people ask me, I say I'm a pro-millennialist. I'm all for it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear from the text that this is when there is the marriage feast of the Lamb. This is when there's the great defeat of Satan. This is when, the three who run the world, the whore, the beast, and the false prophet, which are obviously the socio-political military regime, the commercial social regime, and false religion. All three of those are defeated and bound. That the church will be ascendant and achieve its right place, and there'll be compensation for those who have been harmed. I don't see any of that now. And the idea that Christ takes his people away from that trial, I don't find purchase for that in this text. It appears from this description that these are people who went through that trial and who were harmed. I think our desire to not face this trial is appropriate because we're humans and we don't want to go through these troubles. But I think Jesus' promise here is if you go through this trouble, and they will prevail over the saints. That's the lesson. We will lose. We don't win. We are victimized. That's the promise. We will be victimized. That there is a reversal of that, an inversion and a justification that comes overtly by the hand of Christ through his power as he puts them down and raises us up. That's the only promise we get. But we don't see that yet.
There's all sorts of debate on the timelines from, yes, when the rapture happens in regard to the millennial reign, but also even before that, like when does the Great Tribulation happen? Are we raptured even before that or whatever? So you're kind of, sounds like touching on that too, right? Like with the overarching theme in mind that you mentioned in the email as well, quote, I find that quite often readers get distracted by the lure of theologizing about time frames and serial arrangement, what's the precise or historical character and order of events. When those concerns capture the reader's attention, the major thrust of the overall scene gets lost. It's a forest versus trees perspective problem. And I think there's a dark spiritual dynamic that tries to use the liability to deflect readers away from the grand truth of overcoming that's being presented. So I'm hearing you say that in a slightly different way here too. There's a disadvantage to overly focusing on timelining it out, not only because it doesn't honor the genre in which it was written, but because something spiritually happens. It throws us off from the main message. Am I getting that right?
Yes. When we look at the text as a resource for our theologizing, and particularly try to put together knowledge about what is going to happen, we're doing a project that makes us feel like we're in control, that makes us feel like we're not victimized, that makes us feel like we've got a handle on this. You know what I mean? So we're mastering the text to build our information so that we have a clear, safe path. What the text is focused on creating in us is a confidence that says, no, you're going to lose. It's been given to the world order to crush Christians underfoot. Your path to safety lies through the resurrection, not through your mastery of the timeline of events. And so the one agenda competes with the other. Like, we want to feel safe. We want to know that we're going to either take the elevator out before the building burns, or that we know we can see the events coming, and so we can hide ourselves or defend ourselves or whatever. Our defense isn't going to matter. We're going to be overcome. Our hiding isn't going to matter. They're going to search us out and they're going to crush us. That's what Jesus says. Because the message, in some ways, of the gospel is God the Father loves you like he loves his Son. Expect the same outcome. Expect the same path. And so what we do is we end up looking for the timelines because That's the Western, actually, it's all the way back to the garden, the quest for knowledge. But the Western quest for knowledge is one in which knowledge equals mastery and mastery equals safety.
It's a control thing.
Yes. And in the West, that's science.
So really the message we're supposed to be getting is what Jesus said, like, in this world, you will have trouble, but take heart anyway, because I've actually overcome the world. The very world you're having trouble in is under the feet of Christ, and that's what's going to be finally implemented.
Yes.
And it almost seems like, when you mention there's a spiritual component to why we humans keep trying to extrapolate the specific information and the timeline and all this kind of thing, the spirit behind it maybe being some sort of religiosity or wanting to feel in control, or even like a legalism lens that we might read the scripture through, that reminds me of fundamentalism. I don't know. Is there anything there?
I think it was the serpent's first bait in the garden, that we would know the difference between good and evil instead of trusting what I should or shouldn't do. I think that lure still comes to us, that I want to know the difference between good and evil. I want to be able to discern it and make that decision. In other words, we want God to give us enough knowledge to where we can shepherd ourselves well, rather than let him shepherd us. So we want to know the difference between good and evil. We want to know when the timeline is, so that we still retain some autonomy and some agency in it. And the scripture says you need to be saved. You're saved from all of this via the resurrection. It's not that you master it.
Is that mentality kind of part of what Jesus was calling out the religious leaders for when he said, you know all these scriptures, but you're not even being kind? Like, you've spent all these years poring over the text, but yet this is what you've come away with? This oppressive, weird religion thing?
Yeah. You lay burden on some men's shoulders too grievous to be borne. You won't do a finger to lift them yourself.
Yeah.
You travel land and sea to get one little follower on your thing, and then you make him twice the child of hell as yourself. Yeah. Because you're blind guides. You strain at gnats and swallow camels. So and I think that's the devil's ploy is look at the birdie. And if the birdie says you can have knowledge, we look at it. If it says be saved by Jesus in humility, we avoid it. And so the devil wants us to get on, right? Wants us to get on chiliastic issues. And what's the tribulation? Is it life generally? Or is it these 7 years? Is it the times and half a time? And the point of the text is relax. Jesus will vindicate you. Those harmful things that were done to you, he saw them. And he is the judge. And he will not let those go unaddressed. He's going to restore. And this is huge, I think, for the people. Sorry, it's just such a thing.
No.
He's going to restore those people's dignity. They had their families ripped from them. They had their life's works destroyed. They lost their honor in society, which the generations had work to do. They were falsely accused. And they were falsely accused as people who deceived others. Here you're put in prison so you can't go deceive people. It's one of those reversals.
That's why he says, then he was unable to deceive the world, and then he was released briefly to deceive again, and then thrown into the fire.
Because they were yanked in front of magistrates as being deceivers, and then they were beaten and humiliated and broken. And people have been broken, not always for religious reasons, but they've been broken by oppressors, been harmed in deep, deep ways. And Jesus says, I see that and I will save you. This is not finished. And that's what the devil doesn't want people to focus on.
He's the real deceiver, and he loves when the church is called the deceiver. the followers of Christ are called deceiver, but really he's the one that's, it's like the ultimate like narcissistic projection. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's like I'm imagining a church member getting this letter from John, hearing it read out loud, choosing to believe in this gospel message that the ultimate victory lies in the resurrection and Christ will vindicate them. And that truth permeating their nervous system and every cell of their body, and then finally being able to walk in peace even after such horror has happened in their life. This message of ultimate vindication and victory, reigning and ruling with Christ, everything being made right, perfect judgment, is inner healing, because
Yes.
you realize you can trust. First of all, I can't take up for myself. It doesn't work. I'm not powerful enough. I've been victimized in this world or whatever. And then knowing that the truth of life doesn't stop there, that the good news is, the gospel is, that Christ has come as your savior. He can move you out of this situation and bring you into his family, and you will actually reign and rule with him, be healed of any and every oppression and trauma, and be able to see rightness win.
Yeah.
That's why it's so cool. Yep.
Have hope. Have hope. And for the rest of your life, understand when the losses come, when the oppressions come, it's not only the past ones, it's the future ones. You can face those and go, you know what? I know that my Redeemer lives. But everybody's life is Job, where you get the goodies at the end, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's why this ends with the incineration. What you have to understand is the lake of fire is the cosmic incinerator, right? It's not really placed as it's not depicted as a place of torment. It's a place of incineration and disposal, which is a lot like Gehenna. That's what Jesus' talk of Gehenna is. And the last things to be thrown in there are hell and death. So even those concepts get incinerated. Remember Lazarus? Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead, and then they say everybody's going over to Jesus, we'll kill him again. Like, what? This is where Jesus gives that speech. Any seed falls into the ground and dies, it can bring forth fruit. Which is a great speech when he's just raised his friend. So his followers are going, oh, my general raises his dead soldiers. This is awesome. And that's where this culminates. But it's not going to be like, well, he dies, but he got raised again. But then Satan came back and killed them all again. There are no third chances for the devil here. Even death and hell are incinerated. So his weapons get taken away. So they burn his tanks with him. And that's where each vision, I saw this, is an equation. What is it that has challenged Christ? The world orders challenge Christ. The spiritual orders challenge Christ. The false religions challenge Christ. And they all lose every time. Here they all gather together. And it's still, and fire came down from heaven to destroy them. It's that quick. There's ultimate power on Christ's side. And then he goes, oh, and by the way, I'm taking away your knife. You don't even get to use, death's in there with you. You don't get to, there is no more death. You can't kill anybody because death doesn't exist anymore. So there,
Yeah. Yep.
That's nice.
Checkmate.
Checkmate.
Can we, I know you always say to not get in the weeds, so I'm trying to
It's okay.
avoid.
We can get in the weeds if you want.
Okay. If someone were to ask you why Satan has to get re-released for a brief time, what would your main reason be there?
There's a couple of reasons. One, there's a transition. So there's the two kinds of punishment that Christians get under oppression is they get jailed and they get executed. So he's taken out of jail and he's going to be going to execution, because the abyss is like demon jail. That's when Abaddon opens it before all the demons come out. So this is demon jail. He's no longer in demon jail. He is now going to execution. So that's part of it. There have to be two different scenes. The other part of it is that there's sort of this idea of the comeback. Think about how many times Israel came forward and then lost it again. And came forward and lost it again. So in the idea of cosmic battle, yeah, but that was a lucky kill. You only won that battle because we only won that fight because I had the flu before. So there's this thing of could he have a comeback? And what this shows is, sure, give him a comeback. He gets a comeback. He goes, deceives all the nations, comes back, and and fire came down from heaven and destroyed him again. So there's part of that. The other thing is to reveal that that's how humans do. No matter what happens, humans will always fall for it. Humans don't learn their lessons, and this judgment has to be final.
Got it.
This has to be absolute, because he will not stay down. It's kind of like Napoleon. Think about Napoleon, right? He loses the first time. They put him on Corsica. He comes back. He does the second round. They put him on St. Helena.
Your answer is definitely ringing true with the genre stuff. I was reading some theologians think that it's also because of free will. So you have this millennial where the earth is kind of repopulating to whatever extent. So anyone who's walking the earth who hasn't experienced death yet, because there's a combo maybe of people who are resurrected and then people who have never died yet. So like two kinds of Christians hanging out, I guess. But anyway, the people who've never died yet, they need an opportunity to choose, or they need to have the initial experience of the enemy's influence in the world so that they can exercise their free will and decide whether to be a Christian or not.
It doesn't seem to be in this text. It doesn't seem to be running those themes. It talks about them being deceived. If you're deceived, it's not very free will. You think you're making one choice, but you're making a different choice, right? So he deceives the nations. It's just that human beings are dupes. He got them in the garden. He's gotten them all the time. He keeps getting them, and he'll get them again. And there's this thing of human hubris that thinks, oh no, we'll be able to discern. We'll see that guy come. No. You let that guy out, he is going to deceive the nations. Why? Because humans are gullible and he is sneaky. And he's really old and he's really powerful. And the only solution is if Jesus throws him in the incinerator and throws away the key. That's it.
So
the only guy who can do that is Jesus.
It's like another reminder of John saying, you need a savior. This enemy keeps deceiving and humans keep falling for it, and it's going to happen again at the end. Just a reminder, you need Jesus, you need the savior.
Yeah. And he's powerful. This is almost like, well, yeah, but what if he got out of jail? If he gets out of jail, Jesus will destroy him and throw him away. He's big, but he's not that big. And I don't say that flippantly, because he's a lot bigger than I am. And I'm subject to being deceived. If Jesus doesn't save me, I am cooked. If Jesus does, I have nothing to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
That's this equation. If Jesus doesn't save me, I'm completely doomed. If Jesus does save me, I have not a care in the world except to hang on.